The sand in that picture was the whitest I've ever seen, almost as white as the lie I was living. It was the type of photo that looks edited by professional software, but you know it's real. One that gives you longing for a place you've never been. The water was so bright turquoise that it hurt my eyes. In the midst of all that beauty there was Liam, my Liam. The sun shone on his laughing face as he threw his head back with eyes full of crinkles. His arm was wrapped around a woman I'd never seen before. She was beautiful, of course. The girl was slim and had long dark hair, which was tossing in the open sea breeze. They were kissing. Not a peck, not a friendly gesture. It was a kiss full of possession. A kiss that belonged to two people who thought they were the only two people in the world. My breath caught in my throat. A sharp, ragged thing. I looked at the caption and kept rereading it, wishing my eyes would go blind. It was the woman who posted it. Her profile is open for the world. My wonderful wife, Dr. Eris Thorne, and I had the best honeymoon. Here's to a lifetime of adventures. Star. I was already confused until I saw the picture and caption. He felt at home. Then I scrolled down to the tag and I swear my heart stopped. The tag was on Liam, but the name in the caption, it wasn't Liam, it was Eris. Asterisk doctor, I can't believe that Thorne guy's name is Aries. And the lady who posted that called him wife? I blinked, confused, scrolling to another picture. It was him again, and this time alone, holding up a glass of. The caption from the same woman read, asterisk, my great husband has ended one chapter and started ours. Star. Husband, Dr. Eris Thorne. My Liam's name was Liam Miller. He wasn't a doctor. Not yet. He was a PhD candidate. My PhD candidate, I had often joked. He had planned a solo research trip to Costa Rica to reward himself for finally submitting his dissertation. A trip that I had paid for. Every single penny, from the plane ticket to the beachfront cabin. I made the reservation myself as a graduation gift for the man whom I had supported for the last 6 years. The man I thought I was going to marry. My phone felt impossibly heavy in my hand. Our small apartment had always felt full of our shared future until now, when it became cold and empty. All I could hear was the low hum of the fridge and the sound of panic screaming in my head. Who was Eris Thorne? And who was that woman? I gazed again at the photograph of them entwined, at their clasped hands, and the matching simple gold bands on their ring fingers. That's when the understanding hit me. It wasn't just heartbreak, but that the last 6 years of my life were more or less a lie. They had been in a transaction, and I had just funded my own replacement. 6 years ago, our lives were a lovely, chaotic mess, all centered around the goal of getting Liam his PhD in sociology. To me, our world was a one-bedroom apartment that always smelled of old books, burnt coffee, and the lavender scent I bought on sale. We lived and breathed his dissertation. There existed a third person in our relationship. This third person dictated our timings, budgets, and future. He was demanding and omnipresent. I worked 2 jobs. I worked as a waitress at the Morning Glory Diner from 6 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. I went home smelling of bacon grease and bleach. My feet hurt and my pocket was filled with crumbled dollars. I'll have time to shower, stand at the sink for a quick meal, and then, at our rickety small kitchen table, get started with my second job doing medical billing remotely. I would type until my vision was blurry. The sounds made on the keyboard will feel like a lullaby to Liam, who will be over at the library. He was brilliant. Everyone said so. His professors, his colleagues, and even my mother would keep praising him for his vocabulary. Whenever he spoke of his work, which is social capital in the marginalized, his eyes would light with the type of fire that made my sacrifices seem necessary. He was doing something key, something that would alter things. I was helping him get there. He'd stagger in at night and say, Clara, you're my little angel. I would have his food in the oven waiting for him. When he would wrap his arms around me from behind and put his chin on my shoulder, I felt such a purpose. Without you, none of this would have happened, I swear. When I'm Dr. Miller, we will buy a little house with a garden. You can now leave that terrible diner. That was the promise. When I'm Dr. Miller. It was a ray of hope at the end of a long, dark tunnel. I didn't mind the mismatched chipped mugs or the couch that came from the second-hand store with a lumpy cushion, nor did I mind that all my clothes were thrifted. It was all temporary. We were investing in our future, he'd say, and I believed him. I managed our finances with the precision of an accountant. Every dollar from my tips and every cent from my billing job went there. We made all our bill payments on time, including the rent and utilities. The biggest payment we made was for Liam's tuition and living stipend. I made up for it month by month, year by year. I stopped wanting things for myself. When I thought about going back to school to earn a teaching degree, I packed that dream away in a box, like a winter coat I wouldn't need for a very long time. Life wasn't always easy or stressful, but in between were little moments. I was the one who was proofreading his chapters till 3 a.m. and circling all the typos. One time he had left a gardenia on my pillow, my favorite flower. The last I saw of his few dollars. We slow danced in the living room with an old record playing in the background, speaking about what we hope is our future life together. When he finally walked the stage and got hooded, and then we could finally start our real life. I never doubted his love because depending on me was proof enough of his devotion. He needed me, and I loved being needed. The day he turned in the final bound copy of his dissertation was the day our real life was to begin. I purchased a bottle of champagne. Not the cheap sparkling wine we usually got, but a real French one that cost me the tips of an entire shift. We opened the champagne in our tiny living room, and the cork hit the ceiling and left behind a dent. To Dr. Liam Miller, I said, my voice breaking. To us, Clara, he corrected with a twinkle in his eye. We did this. You do this. He pulled me closer and we drank straight from the bottle like children laughing. For a single glorious evening, the weight was gone. He was present, he was joyful, he was mine again. We chatted for hours on our lumpy couch, making plans. A small house with a porch swing, a dog. I wished to take a pottery class that I have always been interested in. I felt that since the new future existed, I could finally touch it. In the following days, he went strangely quiet. He became a man of few words. I didn't get the relief I was expecting, but rather a kind of energy. He sat there typing on his phone for long hours, a small, secretive smile gracing his face. He would say, nothing but networking. Academics are all about who you know. Contacting journals and prospective employers made sense, so I did not question it. But the doors slid shut and Mark headed to the balcony for a call. The sound of his voice came back to me, low and muted. The first real prick of unease came about a week later. We were washing dishes, a comfortable domestic ritual. He was drying and I was washing. You know, he said, casually polishing a glass until it squeaked. I've been giving my publishing name a lot of thought. I glanced over at him. Your publishing name? Yeah. Miller is so common. Academia has many people named Dr. Miller. It's simple to lose yourself, he remarked as he set the glass down. I am considering taking up a pen name. Professionally, of course. My whole academic brand comprises books and articles. I exclaimed, oh, as my hands sat in the warm, soapy water. Like what? He paused a beat too long. Eris Thorne. My middle name is Eris while my mother's maiden name is Thorne. Feels stronger. More memorable. Eris Thorne. This sounds like the name of someone from one of the fat theoretical tomes Leo read. It didn't sound like him. It doesn't sound like Liam is the boy who falls asleep with crooked glasses and snorts when he laughs too hard. I tried my best to keep my tone neutral as I responded. It's different. Different is good, he said too fast, a bit too defensively. It's about making your mark, he says. He puts the towel down and comes to wrap his arms around my waist, kissing the top of my head. Don't worry, I'll always be Liam Miller to you. He hugged me as if to indicate that he did not want to go any deeper into this conversation. I leaned against him, and yet the oddness was planted in my mind. Then came the trip. A few days after their conversation about the name, he brought it up. He'd just gotten off another one of his hushed phone calls. Clara, I'm going to Costa Rica, he said with a serious face. My heart leaped. We're going? Vacation? Oh, Liam, finally. His face fell slightly. No, honey, not we. Just me. The joy in my chest deflated instantly. Oh, why alone? He took a seat across from me at our small kitchen table and took my hands. His were cool. This isn't a vacation. It's a pilgrimage of a sort. I need to return to the village where I conducted my field work. I have to see the people. Not as a researcher taking notes, but as people. To say thank you. I need to take some time to relax and reflect on the last 6 years. Before a couple of us start the next chapter. He looked so earnest, so noble. How could I argue with that? He wants to frame it as an essential act of closure or purification. Claire, I have to do it myself. To really engage with my thinking. I squeezed his hands, feeling ashamed of myself because I selfishly felt disappointed. Of course, he needed this. He deserved it. After all his hard work, he deserved a moment to himself. I'm right, I said with a smile. You absolutely should go. How long? Just a week. 10 days maybe. I reached into my pockets. Okay, I reply, already practical. Okay, let's look at flights. This will be my graduation gift to you. You don't need to pay for anything. A flash of something, relief, crossed his face. Claire, you are not required to do that. I want to, I insisted. And I did. Before starting our new life, I wanted to give him this one last gift. So I did what I always did. I picked up extra shifts at the diner. I took on a rush project for the billing company. I discovered a beautiful, secluded beachfront cabin on a travel site that appears to be a dream come true. I paid for the flight and the cabin, and I transferred him some spending money. Throughout this, he was weirdly hands-off, just sending me the link to the place he wanted to stay. You are far more adept at this kind of stuff than I am, he'd said with a kiss. The day he departed, There was a silence in the apartment I was not used to. He packed a suitcase I had never seen before and folded a few shirts I had never seen before. You know, just some new things for the new me, he joked when I asked. At the door he hugged me tightly, but it felt rehearsed. I'll surely miss you, my dear, whispered he. I'll miss you more, I mumbled into his shoulder. He pulled back and kissed me. It was a brief, dry kiss. A stranger's kiss. I really love you, he said, and I felt like he really meant it, but I could tell that he did not. I love you too, I said aloud to the empty doorway after he had already gone. For a long time I stood there. An inexplicable cold seeped into my bones. I told myself it was only the sadness of goodbye. The first few days he was gone were a strange mix of relief and loneliness. The apartment was too quiet, too tidy. There were no piles of books on the floor, no half-empty coffee mugs on the nightstand. For the first time in 6 years, my time was my own. I slept in. I took long baths. I watched cheesy movies without anyone making fun of the plot holes. But every night I'd crawl into our bed and the space beside me felt vast and cold. I missed his warmth. I missed the familiar weight of his arm draped over my waist. He was a terrible communicator while he was away. He said the Wi-Fi at the cabin was spotty, a claim I didn't question given its remote location. His texts were short and sporadic. Asterisk, landed safely. It's beautiful here. Asterisk, the ocean is incredible. Thinking of you. Asterisk, so good to clear my head. Love you, sis. I'd send back long rambling messages about my day, about a funny customer at the diner, about a new recipe I tried. His replies were always just a few words. I chalked it up to him being immersed in his pilgrimage. He was disconnecting just like he said he wanted to. I tried to respect that. The discovery happened on a Tuesday night. It was the 7th day he was gone. I was scrolling aimlessly through social media, a habit I'd picked up to fill the quiet evenings. My thumb hovered over the search bar. I had a silly romantic idea. I wanted to see the place he was staying, to imagine him there. Maybe the hotel or other travelers had tagged the location. I typed in the name of the remote Costa Rican village. At first it was just what I expected. Pictures of sunsets, monkeys, and lush jungle landscapes. I scrolled down, a soft smile on my face, feeling a little closer to him. And then I saw it. A picture of a group of people clinking glasses at a beachside bar. And in the background, unmistakably, was Liam. My heart did a little flip. He was out making friends. That was nice. He wasn't just brooding alone in his cabin. I clicked the woman's profile who posted the photo. Her name was Olivia. Her profile was public, a grid of bright, happy travel photos. I scrolled through them, and that's when I saw the wedding picture from 2 days prior. It was the one with the white sand and the turquoise water. Liam, or the man who looked exactly like him, kissing the woman with the long dark hair. Olivia was a guest. She had tagged the bride and groom. The bride's handle was something generic, but the groom's was stark and professional at Eris Thorn. PhD. My blood ran cold. Eris Thorn, his publishing name, his academic brand. My hands started to shake. This had to be a mistake, a bizarre coincidence. A man who looked identical to Liam, who also happened to be a newly minted PhD, who also happened to be in the same tiny village in Costa Rica at the same time. It was impossible. My logical brain was screaming that it was impossible. I clicked on the tag at Eris Thorn. PhD. The profile was private, but the profile picture was a crisp, professional headshot. It was Liam, but it wasn't my Liam. This version of him was polished and confident. He was wearing a tweed jacket and a thoughtful expression. The bio was simple. Asterisk, sociologist, professor at Northgate University. Professor. He hadn't even started applying for jobs yet, or so I thought. I went back to the bride's profile. Her name was Dr. Elena Vance. Her profile was also private, but her profile picture showed her laughing, her arm around someone just out of frame. All I could see was the sleeve of a familiar blue shirt. Liam's favorite blue shirt, the one I bought him for his birthday 2 years ago. I felt like I was going to be sick. I stumbled back to Olivia's page, the wedding guest. I scrolled frantically looking for more clues, and I found them. A whole album of photos from the wedding day. The album was titled Asterisk, Elena and Eris tie the knot. Picture after picture confirmed the nightmare. There was Eris, standing at a makeshift altar on the beach, beaming. His parents were there. His mother, whom I had spoken to on the phone a dozen times, was smiling and wiping a tear from her eye. His father, whom I'd met once at a university event, was clapping him on the back. They all knew. And then I saw the details. The flowers were gardenias, my favorite flower, the ones he used to leave on my pillow. The song they danced to, mentioned in the caption, was Our Song, the one we always played while slow dancing in our living room. He hadn't just stolen my money, he had stolen our life. He had taken all the intimate, sacred pieces of our relationship and given them to someone else. He had curated a new life using the best parts of the one he had with me. My vision started to blur. I was looking at a ghost. The man I had spent 6 years loving, supporting, and sacrificing for did not exist. He was a rough draft, a prototype, and I had been the focus group, the unpaid intern, the research assistant for a project I didn't even know I was a part of, the creation of Dr. Eris Thorne. My finger, trembling, hovered over the first picture again. One of them is kissing. The caption from Olivia, asterisk, so happy for these two. After a long-distance engagement and finishing their PhDs at the same time, they finally get their happily ever after. Hashtag Dear Vance and Thorne, sis. Engaged. They had been engaged the whole time. Long distance. While he was living with me. At the same time he was sleeping in my bed. At the same time I was paying his tuition, his rent, his bills. At the same time I was working 2 jobs so he could build a life with another woman. The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered to the floor. The screen didn't crack, but I did. A sound tore from my throat. A ragged, wounded noise that didn't sound human. I wrapped my arms around myself, rocking back and forth on the cold floor of our apartment. My apartment. The home I had built for a man who never really lived there. The lie wasn't just that he was on a honeymoon. The lie was everything. Every I love you. Every we're a team. Every promise of a future that was never meant for me. The shock was physical, a crushing weight on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could see was that photo. His smile. Her hand on his chest, and the gold band on his finger, shining in the sun. A sun I had paid for. For a long time I just sat there on the floor, the world muted and distorted as if I were at the bottom of a swimming pool. The initial shock gave way to a white-hot rage that burned away the tears. It was a clarifying fire. The heartbreak was still there, a deep, cavernous wound, but the anger was a scaffold holding me up, giving me form when I felt like I was dissolving. I stood up, my movements stiff and robotic. I walked through the small apartment and everything I saw was a monument to the lie. The bookshelf he built, filled with books I'd bought him. The single, perfect coffee mug he used every morning was a gift from me. The worn spot on the couch where he always sat. This wasn't a home. It was a stage. A set that was about to be struck. My mind, which had been so clouded with love and sacrifice, was suddenly sharp, analytical. I thought about the 2 jobs, the exhaustion that had become my constant companion, the dreams I had deferred. I had poured my life force into him and he had siphoned it off to fuel a double life. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was financial. It was theft. And that's when the plan began to form. It wasn't a conscious decision, not at first. It started as a single cold thought: he owes me. I picked my phone back up. My hands were steady now. I went back to that wedding guest's profile. I scrolled and I screenshotted everything. The picture of them kissing. The picture of their wedding rings. The picture of him with his parents. Captions, especially the captions. Asterisk, long distance engagement. Dr. Vance and Dr. Thorne. Asterisk, I saved every single piece of evidence. Then I went to his professional profile at eristhorne.phd. I took a screenshot of the polished headshot and the bio claiming he was a professor at Northgate University. Northgate University. It was a prestigious private college on the other side of the country. A quick search confirmed they had a renowned sociology department. He had really pulled it off. He had secured a top-tier job before he even officially graduated. He hadn't been networking on his phone. He'd been accepting a job offer and coordinating his wedding. My next search was for Dr. Elena Vance. It wasn't hard to find her. She was an academic too. A postdoctoral fellow in art history at a university near Northgate. Her university bio was public, complete with a professional email address. She looked accomplished, intelligent, a peer. I wondered for a fleeting moment what lies he had told her. Did she know about me? Did she think he lived alone? A struggling grad student surviving on meager stipends? The thought that she might be another victim flickered, but I extinguished it. She was wearing a wedding ring he'd bought with my money. She was a co-conspirator in my ruin, whether she knew it or not. The plan solidified. It wasn't about screaming or revenge in the traditional sense. I had no interest in keying his car or burning his clothes. That was beneath the woman I had just become. My revenge would be precise, it would be quiet, and it would be a debt collection. I spent the next 2 days in a state of feverish activity. I went through 6 years of bank statements, credit card bills, and rent receipts. I had always been meticulous with our finances. a skill I'd honed out of necessity. Now it was my greatest weapon. I created a spreadsheet. I logged every single dollar I had spent on him. Tuition payments I had made directly to the university. Rent checks for his half of the apartment. Groceries. Utility bills. The cost of every book, every conference fee, every plane ticket. The cost of the new suit he'd worn for his dissertation defense. And finally, with a grim sense of satisfaction, I added a separate line item. Costa Rica honeymoon package. I entered the cost of the flights, the 10-day cabin rental, and the spending money I had transferred to his account. I worked like a woman possessed. The grief was a low hum beneath the surface, but the task at hand consumed me. It was methodical. It was righteous. As I tallied up the numbers, I felt a strange sense of power returning to me. He had made me feel small, foolish, and used. But this spreadsheet, this cold, hard evidence of my contribution, was proof of my strength. It was a 6-year ledger of my labor, my sacrifice. The total was staggering. It was more than I had ever allowed myself to comprehend. It was the down payment on a house. It was a new car. It was the teaching degree I had put on hold. It was a life. My life. When the spreadsheet was complete, I printed it out. 3 pages of meticulously itemized expenses. The final number at the bottom was circled in red ink. Then I sat down and began to write. Not a furious, rambling letter, but a calm, formal invoice. I addressed it to Dr. Eris Thorne. I used the address of his parents' house, the one I had on file from sending Christmas cards. The body of the letter was simple. To Dr. Eris Thorne. Enclosed is a detailed invoice for financial support provided from August 2017 to May 2023. This support was provided under the verbal agreement and shared understanding that we were building a future together. As you have now begun a new life, separate from the one we planned, I am formally requesting reimbursement for these documented expenses. The total amount due is... I inserted the final staggering number, that asterisk. Please also find attached several documents for your reference, which provide context for this request. These include photographs from your recent wedding to Dr. Elena Vance and a screenshot of your new professional profile. I have also taken the liberty of preparing a copy of this correspondence for the head of the sociology department at Northgate University, Dr. Peterson, and for Dr. Elena Vance at her university email address. We can resolve this matter privately and professionally, making the distribution of those copies unnecessary. Payment is due within 30 days. Sincerely, Clara. I printed the letter, my hand not shaking in the slightest. I made 3 identical packets. Each one contained the invoice, the spreadsheet, and the damning collection of screenshots. One for him, one for his new boss, and one for his new wife. I sealed the first envelope, addressed to him. The other 2 I placed on my kitchen table, a silent, potent threat. I would give him a chance to do the right thing. But I was no longer the naive, trusting woman who would wait forever. The clock was now ticking on his perfect new life. The next step was the hardest. I had to dismantle the life we had built, or rather, the life I had built for him. When I looked around the apartment, I felt like I was in a museum with a statue of a dead relationship. It was time to clear out the exhibits. I started with his closet. I removed from the closet every shirt I had ironed, every sweater I had bought him for Christmas, every shabby pair of jeans he loved. I didn't throw them away. That felt too emotional, too dramatic. Instead, I organized everything into boxes, folded what I could, and stuffed it all into cardboard boxes. It was a methodical, detached process. While packing, I found a few odds and ends tucked in the pockets. A movie ticket to our first date, a dried gardenia petal, a note I'd written him. Every new piece of information stung me like a paper cut on my heart. I stopped for a moment, took a deep breath, and added the piece to the box with the rest of his things. They can be said to belong to Liam Miller's life, but Liam Miller is gone. I boxed up his books, his papers, and his laptop. I removed our pictures from the refrigerator and the walls. The apartment started to feel bigger, emptier, but cleaner, lighter. I was trying to erase him, not just from my future but also from my present. The day of his return from the research trip arrived. I had a choice. I could be there when he entered, ready to scream at him, prepared to confront him, or I could be gone. My former self, who wished to resolve emotional issues, would have stayed. However, I was a new person, and over the past 2 days, I had documented 6 years' worth of financial and emotional theft. He did not deserve a ticket to that performance, a silence more potent than anything I could ever scream. So I packed a bag for myself. I called my mom, my voice surprisingly steady. Liam and I were done. Can I stay with you for a little while? She didn't ask too many questions. Of course, sweetheart, you can always use the guest room. She said it so easily, so matter-of-factly, that it almost made me crack. Just hearing her say that, unconditional and simple, was the first nice thing I had felt in days. As my last act before leaving the flat, I placed a single box smack in the middle of the living room floor. His passport, their birth certificates, and their social security cards were the most essential personal items. On the box, I sealed the envelope addressed to Dr. Eris Thorne. Then I walked out, leaving my keys on the kitchen counter. I didn't look back. It was all a blur of blissful numbness at my mother's place for a few days. She wrapped me in a cocoon of quiet care. She made me soup. She sat with me while I stared blankly at the television. I was grateful she didn't ask me for details. My phone buzzed on the third day. It was him, a text message. Clara, where are you? All my stuff is in boxes. What's going on? A few minutes later, another one, and what is this letter? Is this some kind of joke? My heart was pounding a slow yet heavy rhythm against my ribs as I looked at the screen. I wanted to respond and tell him how hurt, angry, and upset I was, but I held back. My letter had said everything that needed to be said. The calls started next. He called once, twice, 10 times. I let each one go to voicemail. After the 15th ring, the voicemail alert beeped. As my mother sat beside me, her hand resting on my arm, I heard it. His voice was a frantic, panicked mess. Dr. Eris Thorne is no longer a calm, confident man. This was the voice of a cornered animal. Clara, pick up the phone. What is this? This invoice, these pictures. Where did you get this? You don't understand. It's not what it looks like. We need to look. You can't do this, Clara. You can't just send this to people. This will ruin me. My career is just starting. Please just call me back. We can fix this. It does not mean what it appears to be. The classic, pathetic anthem of the guilty. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. He didn't care for my heart. He cared for his reputation. I deleted the voicemail, and then I blocked his number. The next contact came a week later. It was an email. The headline of the email was, please read, The tone was completely different. The panic disappeared. It was replaced by cold arrogance. Started Claire without a hello. I was amused by your frankly diluted letter and invoice. While I do appreciate the support you gave me in my studies, framing it as a financial transaction to be reimbursed is both insulting and stupid. We had a personal relationship. Any help you gave was given freely as a gift. There was never a contract and there is never a debt. Threatening to call my university and my wife is blackmail. It is libelous. If you continue with this vindictive course of conduct, I will have no choice but to involve my lawyer. You are doing something dangerous and you will pay the price. You ought to get on with your life and stop this harassment immediately. He signed it, Dr. Eris Thorne, I read the email twice. He was trying to bully me to put me back in my place. The quiet, accommodating woman he thought he knew. He was wrong. The fire he was warning me about, I was already standing in it. It had forged me into someone he wouldn't recognize. I didn't reply to his email. I collected the 2 envelopes that were on my mother's dining room table instead. One was addressed to Dr. Peterson, the head of sociology at Northgate University. Another of the shared letters was addressed to Dr. Elena Vance. I walked to the post office, my steps even and sure. I paid for tracked, priority shipping for both. When I dropped the envelopes in the mail slot, I did not feel vengeful. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt a profound, solemn sense of justice. He had given me no other choice. He had refused to settle his debt privately. So now the debt would be made public. The consequences were no longer in my hands. The fallout was not immediate, but when it came, it was seismic. For 2 weeks, there was only silence. I started to wonder if I had miscalculated. The academic world may be a closed-off fortress that protects its own. Perhaps they would dismiss my letter as the ramblings of a scorned lover. I got a new phone number. I started looking for a new apartment, a small studio just for me. I was trying to move forward, to build a life on the scorched earth he had left behind. The first ripple came from an unexpected source. A message request on social media from Olivia, the wedding guest whose photos had been the catalyst for my discovery. My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won. I opened it. Hi Clara. It read, You don't know me, but I was a guest at Elena and Eris's wedding. I need to apologize. I had no idea about you. None of us did. Elena received a package a few days ago and, well, everything came out. She's devastated. We all are. What he did to you is unforgivable. I just wanted you to know that there are people on your side. I stared at the message. So Elena knew. The package had landed. I felt a strange pang of something that wasn't quite pity, but a sort of solemn acknowledgement of her pain. She was collateral damage in the explosion of his deceit. I typed a simple reply. Thank you for your message. I appreciate it. I didn't owe her my friendship, but I could offer her a sliver of grace. The next piece of information came from a more official channel. About a week after Olivia's message, I received a certified letter from Northgate University. My hands trembled as I signed for it, assuming it was a cease and desist from Liam's attorney. But it wasn't. It was from Dr. Peterson, the head of the sociology department. The letter was brief and formal. Dear Ms., my last name, *, I am writing to acknowledge receipt of your correspondence dated, date. The information you provided was deeply concerning and prompted an immediate internal review. *. Northgate University holds its faculty to the highest standards of professional and ethical conduct. While we cannot comment on the specifics of personnel matters, I can confirm that this institution no longer employs Dr. Eris Thorne. *. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. No longer employed. The words hung in the air. He had lost the prestigious job for which he had sacrificed my life. His academic brand, built on a foundation of lies and my money, had crumbled before it ever truly began. The institution had investigated and found him wanting. It wasn't just about his personal life, it was about character. It was about the fundamental dishonesty that a university, an institution dedicated to the pursuit of truth, could not abide. An academic career is built on integrity. Plagiarizing a life is, it turns out, just as damning as plagiarizing a text. I folded the letter and placed it carefully on the table. There was no joy in it, only a grim, heavy finality. This was the consequence. This was the public accounting. The final act of the drama was delivered to me by my mother. She had kept in touch with Liam's mother, a sweet woman I had always liked. They weren't close, but they exchanged Christmas cards and the occasional phone call. A few weeks after I received the letter from Northgate, Liam's mother called mine. My mom took the call in the other room, but her voice was low and sad. When she came back, her face was etched with a deep sorrow. That was Carol, she said softly, sitting beside me. Liam's mother. I braced myself. She wanted me to tell you how sorry she is, my mom said, her voice gentle. They didn't know Clara. Not the whole truth. They knew he was getting married to Elena, but they thought his relationship with you had ended amicably a long time ago. He told them you two had just grown apart. They had no idea he was living with you, that you were supporting him. When they got your letter, he had it sent to their house after all, and then heard from a hysterical Elena. Carol said her husband was so angry he couldn't even speak. My mom paused, taking my hand. Elena left him. She annulled the marriage. She's moving back to be with her family. And Liam, he's back at home, living in his childhood bedroom. He lost the job. He lost his wife. Carol said he's broken. The word didn't satisfy me, brought me nothing. He wasn't broken because he had hurt me. He was broken because his elaborate, carefully constructed world had been shattered. He was mourning the loss of his grand design, not the loss of my love. My mom squeezed my hand. Carol also said, they're going to pay you back, Clara. All of it. They're taking out a second mortgage on their house. She said it's the only right thing to do. The first payment will be transferred to your account next week. And just like that, it was over. The debt, both moral and financial, was being settled. His parents, people of integrity, were cleaning up the mess their son had made. They were restoring the honor he had so carelessly discarded. I didn't have to fight anymore. I didn't have to chase. The truth, once set in motion, had done its work. He hadn't just lost a job or a wife. He had lost his name. Dr. Eris Thorne was a fiction that had been summarily deleted. And Liam Miller, the man he had tried to escape, was all that was left. A disgraced scholar living in his parents' house, his future a blank page. The legacy he was so desperate to build had become a cautionary tale. For the next few months, the money started to come into my bank account. Each month, money would come from his parents. Felt strange at first, like blood money. My mother was able to help me see things differently, however. One evening, she said to me as we sat on her porch, "It's not his money, Clara. It's yours. It's just coming home." And she was right. It was the salary I was never paid. The extra hours at work while others had fun, and the dreams I put on hold have all been rendered back into money to build my own life. I located a little apartment in a sunny area of a peaceful neighborhood. The little balcony was barely enough to accommodate a chair and a couple of pots of herbs. I felt something akin to financial security for the first time in my adult life. It was nice. I had options. I quit my job at the diner. The day I submitted my resignation, there was a lightness in my chest that I didn't know I was missing. I maintained my remote billing job, which I have always loved, but cut down my hours. I stopped becoming a person whom people use for free and who is constrained by time. It was something to be savored. The most significant change, however, was internal. My fuel anger began to disappear at last. I didn't tell myself I was going to forgive him. In fact, I really don't know if I can ever truly forgive him. But I decided to let it go simply. Clinging on to that anger was like carrying a piece of hot coal. It only burned me. He was no longer a character in my story. He was shut off my life and didn't matter to me any longer, and thus felt easy. While cleaning out an old box of my own things from Mom's attic one day, I found a brochure I had saved a long time ago. The elementary education program brochure for the local community college was elaborated. My old dream, teaching. I thought I packed it out so well because I thought it was too expensive. The sun was shining through the clean windows of my new empty apartment as I sat on the floor and looked at the brochure. There were no more excuses. The caregiver said there was no one to help, no dissertation to edit, no future to build for another. There was only my own. The following week I enrolled. Initially, I signed up for 2 night courses, Child Psychology and Introduction to Education. Stepping into that campus with my bags filled with new notebooks and pens would mean more to me than all university graduations combined. It was a beginning that was entirely mine. My life became a quiet, beautiful rhythm. Work in the mornings, classes in the evenings. I spent my weekend exploring my new neighborhood, learning to cook for one, and filling my little apartment with houseplants and secondhand books I wanted to read. I started talking to some of the old friends I had let go when I was with Liam. I would meet her for coffee or take a quick walk to the park. I would talk about what I learned in my classes, how much I look forward to working with my future students, and my experiences. The little things in my new life that made me happy. I didn't date. I thought about trusting a person that much and realized I no longer knew how. But I wasn't lonely. For the first time I was getting to know myself. As I learned what I like, want, and need independent of what others do, I felt liberated. I found out from my little balcony garden that I love smelling soil on my hands. I discovered I had a knack for pottery as I manipulated the wet clay with my own hands. And to my surprise, it turned out well. I was creating something new that did not arise from anger or vengeance, but rather from quiet, determined self-love. Almost a year later, I received a letter at my new address one day. It was forwarded from my mother's house. The handwriting on the envelope was his. My first instinct was to throw it away unopened, but something made me pause. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. In disregard of his command, I opened the envelope with a kitchen knife. The letter was short. "Clara," it said, "I am aware that you have no reason to read this, and I don't expect a reply. I just needed to say it. I am sorry not just for getting caught but for everything. I'm sorry for all the lies and selfishness I've caused you and for taking something from you. I was a coward. I created a fantasy life because I was too weak to live honestly. I see that now. I'm living with the consequences of my own actions. My parents said that they are repaying you. I'm glad. You deserve at least this much. I hope that one day you get the happiness that you deserve. Asterisk Liam, star. Not Eris. I read the letter and I felt nothing. The message seemed like an apology from a stranger who committed a crime against someone else. The old Clara, the one he had wronged, was non-existent anymore. She had been burned away in the fire of his betrayal. Someone new, someone stronger. That was the woman reading the letter. After folding the letter, I walked over to the kitchen and dropped it in the bin. I didn't need his apology to be whole. I had already healed myself. My peace was not contingent on his remorse. I had built it by myself with my own 2 hands in the bright, sunny rooms of my new life. It's a strange thing. We all spend years building up a life that we think is for us, but really it is for them. I once felt I had to give and sacrifice everything to make the world a better place. My purpose was to help him soar and be the wings beneath his wings. Although his betrayal hurt a lot, it made me realize that I was supposed to have wings too. Real strength is not just about suffering but also about healing. It's about what you do afterwards. It's about using the debris of your destroyed life to create a base that is yours, not your partner's or your parents' or your children's. The money I was paid back was a form of justice, yes, but the healing wasn't in the transfer. My life changed because of the small things. The moment I walked into my first class, the sunset from my balcony, or simply knowing that my future is now wholly and solely in my hands. I had to lose the things I thought I wanted to find the thing I need, me. No one can give me peace or take it away from me anymore. It is something I have earned. When your trust is completely broken, what do you think is more healing in the end? Forgiveness or justice? That's what I'm thinking of asking you. I share my story not for pity but so that it might reach the right ears, someone who needs to hear it. If you found a bit of your own stories in mine, subscribe here and you are welcome to our community. I've read all your comments and I really think we can learn from each other if we listen. Thank you for being here with me today.